Hello and welcome, I'm your host KB, and you're watching the Retrospective.
1, 2, 3, 4.
When it comes to family films, the 90s is a really mixed batch, with some great films that would make my all-time favorites list, and a bunch that just aren't really talked about anymore. The live-action film, Small Soldiers, is definitely one that falls into the latter category, but for this video, I want to explain why I think it is underappreciated. Directed by Joe Dante of Gremlins fame, and I'll get into that more later, the film starts off with Globotech's CEO Gil Mars, played by Dennis Leary, and his newly acquired company Heartland Toys, in which he is working with his new team to release a brand new range of toys. He settles on the toy line's Commando Elite, which is a group of military types, as well as their counterparts, their antagonist toy line, the Gorgonites. As part of the sales pitch, Gil decides he wants to see these toys come to life, and thanks to military munitions chips being utilized during the toy line's manufacturing process, come to life is exactly what these toys do. The main human antagonist and the driving force behind the film's plotline is young Alan Abernathy, played by Gregory Smith. The son of an old-fashioned toy store owner, we find out that he's new in town after being somewhat of a troublemaker and getting expelled from his previous schools. While looking after his dad's store, he is introduced to Christy Fimple, who is played by Kirsten Dunst. Feeling his dad's store is underperforming due to its focus on old school toys, Alan talks one of their delivery drivers into giving him one of the sets of these currently unreleased toys, only to find that the sentient toys have destroyed his father's store.
I am in so much trouble.
There will be no mercy.
From here, Alan befriends the Gorgonites via their leader Archer and looks to help the Gorgonites escape the fury of the militant Commando Elite. Led by the hard-as-nails Chip Hazard, voiced by Tommy Lee Jones, and fueled by their munitions chips, the Commando Elite begin arming themselves for war and set out to decimate the Gorgonites and anything that gets in their way. The main anchor to the film's plotline revolves around these human characters and their interaction with the toys, and I feel that is one of the biggest downfalls of the movie. A stronger focus on the toys themselves and more character development of the toy characters would have gone a long way. The Commando Elite all feel like stripped down generic military stereotypes, which may be by design. The Gorgonites definitely get more shine, with the inquisitive Archer, played by Frank Langella, and his comrades wanting nothing more than peace and to learn more about the world around them. Again, this may be a creative decision, with the producers wanting the movie to distance itself from another famous movie you may have heard of, which also revolved around sentient toys but was released 3 years earlier, called Toy Story. Production-wise, I love the character designs of the toys themselves. We get a nice mix of practical effects, which utilizes some really cool miniatures, as well as the use of computer special effects. With CGI technology still being relatively new in 1998, it's understandable that this isn't going to blend together seamlessly, but I did find the bright CGI models sometimes clashed with the live-action scenery. This stands in contrast with Toy Story, which had the benefit of being an all-CGI affair. Due to that, I think Toy Story feels less dated visually, as the bright cartoony characters fit perfectly in their colourfully animated world. Being a film made predominantly for children, it also feels like it struggles a bit tonally, as it gets quite dark at times. Specifically the Wendy doll scene, which provides some solid nightmare fuel.
Let's do something fun. We'll all get facials.
This may be in part due to Joe Dante's history of crossing age barriers with his Gremlins films, as they definitely have dark tones, but have enough heart and charm about them to appeal to a younger audience. Speaking of Gremlins, there are also a number of nods to the franchise throughout the film. Actors Dick Miller and Robert Picardo both have small roles here, which is nice to see. I also noted that Alan has a gremlin skull on his nightstand, and we also have a scene where David Cross's character Erwin refers to his secret password being Gizmo.
And these are your individual secret passwords. Please take a moment to memorize them now.
Mine's Gizmo.
Joe Dante has a knack for filming puppets or miniatures in a way that lends them a certain amount of credibility, and this really helps take your mind off the fact that you are just watching a bunch of special effects.
Halt! Who goes there?
Greetings, I am Archer, emissary of the Gorgonites.
Awfully polite for a monster.
Acting-wise, we get some solid performances here, especially from Phil Hartman as the smarmy neighbor Phil Thimple.
Hi, sweetie.
What's up?
I out here was just telling me that the angle of the Earth's tilt on its axis relative to the geocentric orbit of the transmission satellite restricts the placement for optimum reception.
And I love Langella's portrayal as the stoic but gentle Gorgonite leader, Archer. We also get some nice interplay between David Cross and Jay Moore's characters, which adds some well-needed humour. Overall, it is a solid production, but lacks a few elements to make it a truly memorable classic. I personally was super excited for the film as a kid, and while I did enjoy it, I didn't love it. I probably got more enjoyment out of the actual toys, which I got for Christmas that same year.
Big battle! Commando, report! Brett Bazooka, ready to annihilate Gorgonite, sir! Send in the major artillery, the Buzzsaw tank!
A movie about a toy line is tailor-made for a merchandising blitz, which is something that the property did relatively well. But with the film's lukewarm reception, the toy line and its merchandising seemed to come and go relatively quickly without leaving much of a lasting impression. While the film wasn't a flop at the box office, it did underperform and there just wasn't much buzz about it. I feel this overall indifference to the film is why it isn't really discussed or talked about a lot today. There were definitely some worse movies which were released during this era that we look on with some reverence today, and I think it's quite a shame as Small Soldiers is a pretty fun film. I think I probably had the most fun I've had with this movie while watching it for this review, as I felt somewhat unencumbered with that typical nostalgia glow that I have for other movies from my childhood, and honestly, I didn't really have a strong recollection of the plot or the movie in general. If you plan on watching the film and you haven't seen it, or you haven't seen it in a really long time, I suggest maybe tempering your expectations, and like myself, you may end up having a pretty good time. Well, thanks very much for watching this video. Please go and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Maybe check out some of my older videos. It really does help the channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Retrospective.